Everybody ready to go?
We're recording.
All right, thanks for recording, Dick. All right, so let's get started. First of all, thank you all so much for attending and speaking on behalf of your organizations today and being part of Sustainable Claremont's first ever virtual dialogue. Our dialogues are our longest running program, but this is the first time that we've done it, with this level of technology. So thank you guys so much for being part of that. Tonight we're planning on running it like we run our normal dialogue. So we'll do a brief introduction, some announcements to start with. I'll introduce our speakers and then they'll give their presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please go ahead and log it into your chat box, and we'll be collecting those questions as they come through, and then we'll relay them to the speakers at the end. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so just a couple quick announcements. Sustainable Claremont, we have our first annual gala, virtual annual gala, coming up on October 12th, which is just 3 weeks away. So if you're able to and interested in supporting our organization, please go to our website, buy tickets, check out our silent auction, which is going to be posted in just a week from now. We really appreciate your support, and it really goes a long way in helping our organization survive and thrive during these challenging financial times. We also are going to be announcing fairly shortly some Green Crew tree planting events. So we're looking at having two, possibly three planting events in the next several months, which will be taking place in Rancho Cucamonga. Don't have those dates nailed down yet, but those should be on our website soon, and we'll be soliciting volunteers. So if you're interested in helping out with that, please keep an eye out, sign up for our newsletter so you're queued into those calls for volunteers. We've launched a Plant a Tree program. So one of our newest programs for the organization offers the ability for donors, individuals to donate a certain amount, and we'll plant a tree for you. So it works just like our Green Crew program, but helps us repopulate the forests in our surrounding communities like Pomona, Rancho Cucamonga, some in Claremont. Again, that's on our website, so please check that out. We also are trying to expand our community composting program, so that's always one of the things we're looking at growing. So if that strikes a chord with you and you'd like to be involved with that, again, please go on our website and message us from our contact form. And we're looking at having a number of dialogues in the next month or two, some really interesting topics with potentially some elected officials. We're looking at some regional sustainability planning type dialogues, and some dialogues with representatives from organizations that are state-wide organizations, looking at ways that you can help improve your home for sustainability. So helping you work through the rebate programs, helping you identify ways to make your home a more sustainable place to live. So again, just keep an eye out for all of those things, and always check into our website to keep appraised of when those are happening. So today we're really excited to have Samantha Matthews and Caitlin Sims and Benson Lamb here to give us a presentation. So Samantha's from San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. She's a management analyst there, and she works on active transportation, water policy, energy efficiency, homelessness, a whole range of incredibly important topics right now. And one of those topics is helping implement the GoSGV regional bike share program, which is why we're here tonight, which is what we're here to talk about. So she's our in-house expert to talk about that. Caitlin Sims works with Samantha. She's principal management analyst at San Gabriel Valley COG. And so she's here for backup if there are any questions that, to help us work through any questions. And then Benson is operations manager at Gotcha, who provide the bikes for this bike share program. And Benson's here to help us answer any technical questions about the bikes that we're looking at. So we're really excited to have him here. Just again, really brief reminder that if, as questions come up, please plug them into the chat box. and myself and a couple others are going to be looking for those, and we'll try to jot them down for the end of the presentation and make sure we get all your questions answered. And so with that, Samantha, I'll throw it to you to go ahead and share your screen.
Great, thank you. Okay, everyone see my screen all right? Great.
Yes.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having us here tonight to discuss with you all our regional bike share program. We're really excited to be here. Here is an agenda for the evening. So I'll give a little bit of background on the COG, who we are, the program overview and goals. I'll give a little background on what the RFP process looked like, some background on GOTCHA, and Benson will talk a little bit about the bikes specifically. We'll go into some of the impacts of COVID-19 on the program, talk about our official program launch, which was in July in South El Monte, and then talk about the rollout process. So how a city gets from being interested in launching the program to actually launching the program. And we'll talk about Claremont specifically and the next steps for Claremont. So with that, I'll give a brief overview of the COG. So we are a sub-regional government agency that serves and represents 30 San Gabriel Valley cities, including Claremont, the unincorporated areas of LA County, and 3 municipal water districts. And we work to improve the quality of life for the 2 million residents of the San Gabriel Valley. And to do that, we address issues of importance to the valley, such as transportation, homelessness, environment, energy, and water. So our GoSGV program came about in 2017. So we were awarded a Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund grant by the California Transportation Commission in 2017 in the amount of $4.5 million to form a bike share program in the San Gabriel Valley. And so this grant will fund at least 15 participating cities and includes a minimum of 840 bikes and stations throughout the region. The goals for this program are to decrease drive-alone trips and increase the share of biking trips within the San Gabriel Valley, promote and encourage biking as a safe and sustainable mode of transportation for short local trips, including one-way trips, and to expand low-cost transportation options in the region. So the bike share equipment, the infrastructure, ongoing operations and maintenance, and program launch are at no cost to participating cities. And at least 420 bikes in the fleet must serve communities that are identified as disadvantaged communities. So back in 2018, we received formal letters of interest from these cities or jurisdictions like the County of Los Angeles for the unincorporated areas, and this included Claremont. And so we're working with all of these cities to move forward and launch throughout the region. So to select a vendor to provide the bikes and provide operations and maintenance, we went through our RFP process. We received 6 proposals, and the highest 3 firms were interviewed. And GOTCHA was unanimously scored the highest by all of the technical advisory committee members after reviewing the written proposals, conducting interviews, and then testing the bikes themselves. So this RFP process, the RFP was released in 2018, and then we contracted with GOTCHA at the beginning of 2019. So who is GOTCHA? GOTCHA is a national private shared mobility firm with 100% electric ride share, customized dockless bike share through an app-based platform. And so GOTCHA currently operates in over 50 systems in cities and colleges across the United States. And I will pass it off to Benson now to talk a little bit about GOTCHA's bikes specifically.
Thank you, Samantha. So as you can see on your screen, there's a little checklist of the features that our bikes have. One, they're 100% electric. 2, they have magnesium alloy wheels, which not only provide a very durable wheel, but also keeps the weight down. And when you rent a bike, the bike actually is equipped with a basket front light and a rear light as well. And that goes on automatically. So you have actually a daytime running light as well as lights for nighttime use. The front hub motor, it's powered by a 350-watt motor. So as you pedal, there is a torque sensor that is attached near the crank, which is towards the bottom where the pedals are attached. And that senses your speed and torque input, and then it meters out an assist. I think those that have ridden the bikes are actually, they're pretty surprised at how fast these things can go. And many of you probably just rode the bikes, if you have ridden the bikes, probably just in echo mode. And when they're actually in boost mode, when they're rented, they're quite a bit faster. It's a belt drive, it's a carbon fiber belt drive system, so there is no chain. One, it's a lot more quieter, and also there's no lubrication necessary. So although we do have a chain guard, belt drives just tend to run cleaner. So you don't have to worry about getting grease and whatnot on your slacks, if you're wearing slacks or pants. And also it is equipped with a GPS enabled smart lock. That is actually how we communicate with the lock through the app. So when you choose a bike and you choose rent, the app will then send a signal which unlocks the front lock, which enables the bike to then be ridden. So yeah, and we can also track where the bikes go, so we can see exactly where you've been and where the bike was parked, as well as where it started from. So that's pretty much it. I did see a question regarding the load capacity. I don't think there's like anything that says if you're over 300 pounds you can't ride it, because these bikes are very robust in their build. Part of the fact, the reason is for one, durability, just for sitting outside, you know, in the outdoor environment. But at the same time, many of these bikes are, like with most companies, they're over engineered so that they can withstand pretty much quite a bit of weight. Obviously, you know, they're not designed to be jumped off curbs and whatnot. So most average people would not have any issues as far as load capacity. But I would caution, if you're going to use the basket to carry a load, just like with the regular bike, you want to limit the amount of weight you put in there so as to not affect the handling characteristics of the bike. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I'll show a short video on how the bikes work, or how you know, downloading the app and actually renting the bikes works. There's a little video that we put together. Oh. All right, so moving on to pricing. So if you were to just go up to the bikes and use them for the day, then it is $2 to unlock and 10 cents per minute after that. And then there are subscription options as well. So there is a monthly subscription of $9.99, which includes 20 minutes of free ride time per unlock. and then 10 cents per minute after that. This is $6.99 per month for students and military. And then we have an annual subscription that is $79.99 per year and includes 20 minutes of free ride time per unlock and 10 cents per minute after that. And this is $59.99 for students and military. And then we also have this Kickstarter plan. So this is for residents who have low income, and they can have a significantly reduced rate. So this is $5 per year, and it includes 20 minutes of free ride time per unlock, 5 cents per minute after that. And to enroll in that program, a resident will need to be enrolled in a reciprocal program. So some of the options are the SCE and SCG Care Program, CalFresh, CalWorks, Medi-Cal, things like that. And so residents can go into, we'll work with each city that is launching to provide a location, normally either City Hall or a Parks and Rec Department building, a location where the resident can sign up for the program, verify that they are enrolled in a reciprocal program, pay the $5 for the year, and have either their app profile be uploaded, or they can get a physical subscription card. And that card can actually also be used for residents who don't have a smartphone as well. For the stations, there are 2 options. There's the virtual hub here on the left, which is just paint indicating the area that the bikes should be parked. And then on the right is the more traditional rack stations where the bikes lock to the rack. And cities have an option of either one of these and generally tend to do a mix of both. And then some of the performance indicators and verification of that. So I know there's a lot of talk around bike share and parking and things like that around cities. So we have a variety of key performance indicators that we will be verifying. So for example, the app has to be fully operational with a 99.5% uptime. For bikes in service, 90% of the bikes must have at least 50% of full charge at all time. Report responsiveness, so if bikes are reported as being located in a designated non-parking area, they will be relocated within 2 hours if between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Monday through Friday. All the bikes must be inspected once every 30 days, and batteries are charged or swapped out for fully charged batteries on a daily basis. And then Gotcha also ensures that the bikes are available for rental and are parked in compliance with the parking strategy. So certainly COVID-19 has impacted bike share programs in general, including our bike share program. So Gotcha is being very vigilant about their cleaning protocols. The e-bikes are cleaned whenever the batteries are switched out, so daily. And Gotcha is using CDC approved cleaning practices. Actually here on the right is a tag that goes on every bike. So it tells the residents that are the users of the bikes that Gotcha is using CDC approved cleaning practices, staff are properly washing and sanitizing, and are socially distancing. And it's also, Gotcha is encouraging social distancing, mask usage, and encouraging residents to wipe down the bikes before and after use as well. And definitely practicing social distancing on rides. And so we found that over the last several months, biking and bike share has increased demand in biking. And so this news article here is from the New York Times this spring that discussed the shortage of bikes in the country as anxiety over public transportation and a desire to exercise has sent the demand surging. So we're seeing this increased interest in biking, less car traffic, better air quality, at least up until recently. And so not only are we seeing this increase in this demand in biking, but also bike share ridership has increased around the country. So Metro has seen an increase in 3%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you compare it to the fact that the transit ridership is plummeting and has decreased 80%, it's pretty remarkable that the bike share ridership has increased. And Gotcha has seen similar increases, or actually even more increases in ridership. This is a news article about how Gotcha is leading micromobility industry with positive system health and staff retention during these times. The same article noted that from February to May, a couple of their systems saw major increases in trips per day and trips per device per day. And actually, during the spring, Gotcha launched in a few new cities, including Atlanta, Dallas, Durham, North Carolina, and then San Gabriel Valley. So with this kind of understanding that there is a demand for biking, and biking can be done in a safe and socially distant way, we launched in July, which was very exciting. I'll show you a few photos here. We had a small socially distant ceremony in the city, a little ribbon cutting. And then there was a small ride around the block for those who were for the city staff who were attending the event. And then I will just show this short news clip from the launch as well.
Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News. In South El Monte, the GoSGV program is launching just in time for the weekend. The regional bike share program offers 30 accessible and affordable bike rides in the city. Residents can expect 840 more electric-assisted bicycles in nearly 15 other cities, including Baldwin Park and El Monte later this year. You can catch a ride starting at just $2.
That was very exciting. And yeah, so South El Monte launched with 30 bikes and 5 bike share hubs. It's the first city to launch. And since they launched, we don't have the data from September yet, but in July and August, there were 226 trips with over 7,000 minutes of ride time with an average of 32 minutes per trip. And so we're excited to, we're going to be launching in Baldwin Park next Thursday, October 1st. And then later this fall, we'll be launching in Covina and hopefully Claremont as well. So now I'll talk a little bit about what the process looks like from a city being interested in the program to actually launching, and then talk about Claremont specifically. So this is kind of the schedule for the rollout process, but it is a little open-ended. Sometimes some of the administration tasks can occur first, but in general, the station siting is first. And so we're working with tool design on the station siting. So this is identifying the locations for the stations in each city. And so tool design, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're a planning, engineering, and landscape architecture firm specializing in active multimodal transportation. And so they are doing the desktop planning. So they're looking at Google Maps, looking for the best station locations, and then they're visiting the city, working with the city staff to determine the best locations. And then they are finalizing site plans, which then need to be approved by either city council or city staff. And so the administration process then requires either the city take a bike share ordinance, which establishes the rules for bike share in the city, though it's not required. We also encourage cities to execute an MOA with us, which just outlines the responsibilities of the city, Gotcha, and the COG, getting those station sites approved by the city, and then finalizing this Kickstarter program, so determining where those locations are going to be. And once those station siting and administrative aspects are finalized, then we begin the rollout process. And so the launch planning, it's not required to have a launch event. Cities can just install the bikes and be launched. We do, we had a small socially distanced event in South El Monte, and we'll be doing the same in Baldwin Park next week. And on that launch planning, we're working with Active SGV, which you're probably familiar with, a nonprofit organization that advocates for active transportation, green infrastructure. through community organizing and events and social media. So they're really helping us with promoting the event on social media and planning the launch. And then once we install the bikes in the stations, which takes a little over about a week, depending on the size of or how many bikes and how many stations, but generally about a week, then the program is launched. So the City of Claremont, currently sorry if you can hear that, it's a little loud here. So Claremont has approved the bike share ordinance, which is great. I believe that happened this last summer. And so currently we are going to be executing an MOA with the city. We are going to begin station siting. Tool will work with the city and finalize the station siting. We've had preliminary conversations with the colleges, and so we'll be continuing to work with them along with the city. The city will then need to finalize that Kickstarter program, the locations for residents to come in and register for the program, and then plan the launch and install the bikes in the stations. And so we're hoping that this could all happen by the end of 2020, but it could be early 2021. Yeah, we're very excited to be working with the City of Claremont and to be getting this bike share program launched in more cities. Eventually, this will be really a regional program, so residents can bike throughout the region seamlessly in an affordable and socially distanced way. So yeah, we're very excited, and at this point, happy to take any questions you may have on the program, the bikes, or anything at all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Samantha. That's great. So much great information in there, and a lot of the questions I had have been answered. But we did get a couple of really great questions in the chat as you were talking. One of them was just asking why two things: why the focus on e-bikes rather than just a regular bike share, and then whether or not there are restrictions on age of riders, so since they are e-bikes, if that's a factor.
Yes, so the reason for the e-bikes was really, I think, taken through, I believe, some feedback from the cities, and also just kind of knowing the topography of our area, especially the foothill cities. We felt that e-bikes would be a better fit for our region. It would also allow people to travel, further distances within the region, especially since this would be, a regional, a pretty big system. And then my understanding is that the riders do have to be 18 to ride the bikes. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like that's right. Caitlin's nodding her head. Okay,
great. And so I'm just going to take a second here to encourage anybody watching right now to please feel free to go ahead, and if you have any questions, to plug them in, and they're starting to come in now. Samantha, I'm sure you and Benson and Caitlin see these, but I'll go ahead and kind of read through them as they pop up, and my colleague Angela might jump in to help me too if I miss any. One of them is, as soon as you rent a bike, how can you tell what the status of the battery is? So maybe if you could talk about the range of the battery, maybe some of the more specs on the bike, maybe Benson, that might be a great question for you.
Sure, I'll be glad to answer that question. So when you look at the dashboard and even on the app, when you pull up a bike, you can do a find function where it'll say, show me where bikes are nearby. And then if you go to a hub, which most of our cities have either virtual or actual hubs. So that's one of the advantages of the systems in SGV, is that they're all hub-based. They're not like the scooters that are just haphazardly placed everywhere. So when you do that, it'll show you the percentage charge on the actual app. So we've had customers come up while we're out swapping batteries and disinfecting the bikes, tell us, oh no, I don't want that bike. Is this one clean yet? And we tell them yes. So, well, that's got the highest charge, so I need that one. So yes, you can determine the actual charge level of the battery when you look at on the app. Samantha also mentioned, it's we try to keep things above 50%. So if we get anything closer to, say, the mid 50s, we usually just go and swap it out, because sometimes what we've experienced so far in South El Monte is we have people riding from South Monte all the way over towards Leg Lake by Whittier Narrows. And people are going for 2.5-hour rides in some cases, which is pretty amazing to me, you know, even amidst all this stuff. And a lot of stuff happens later in the evening. So what we're seeing as a pattern in South Monte, at least, is that the rides in this city so far tend to sway more towards the recreational type of use. But we are definitely hoping that there is going to be a more utilitarian type of usage and ridership in these other cities. It really just depends on the demographic and as well as what the city center has surrounding it. So if it's mostly a neighborhood or a suburbia kind of setting, it's probably going to be mostly a recreational type of use. In the case of Baldwin Park, where we were setting up a lot of stuff today, we set up 2 of the stations already today in Baldwin Park. We're noticing that there's a lot of small businesses around Morgan Park and the City Hall area. So we may tend to see more utilitarian usage out of that part of town. So yeah, range-wise, that can vary. I would say anywhere from 15 to 20 miles on a full charge. Granted, someone's probably not gonna rent a bike and ride it until the battery dies. That'd be kind of cool. We've never had that happen yet, but it'd be kind of neat to see someone ride the bike that long. But I don't think they'd be willing to pay as much as I don't know how long that would take. So, but that's also dependent on weather and other environmental issues like if there's wind and obviously terrain. So if you're going uphill, you're going to use more juice. If there's a headwind, you're probably going to use more assist. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that's really good that just came in is addressing, you know, so if I'm to hop on a bike and take it to the movie theater when we could go back to movie theaters, is there any way I could guarantee that it's still going to be there for me to ride back home or ride back to the Metrolink, or are there sort of provisions for that if you're not docking it at a dock station? So how do we know if we, leave the bike at work that it's going to be there when we want to go home?
That's a really good question. So right now we're encouraging starting and ending at a hub, whether it be virtual or, an actual hub. There are instances where people have ridden somewhere and you can actually lock the bike and not end your ride. So you can lock it, and when you come back to the bike, you can pull up your app and you can just unlock the bike and you can continue. Now, the one catch is when you do that, you're incurring the rental time from the time that you started. So ideally, and this is up for discussion as well, as we see a system evolve and we watch, we have reports, and I think Caitlin and Samantha have both seen this. We have heat maps. It shows which hubs are hot. And right now, since we're encouraging people to ride to certain hubs, that's the pattern of usage. But we may start to see people ride somewhere and leave a bike somewhere. And if we see that on a more repeated basis, then we could always approach the powers that be and say, hey, we're noticing we're having a lot of people ride to these areas and leave bikes here for a short time. Perhaps we might want to put a hub at a nearby location and make that an additional hub. And we can always switch hubs. If a hub's not really being used, we can take that and move it somewhere else that would actually increase our TVD, our trips per vehicle per day. So, that's our goal. We want these bikes to be used. It benefits us, it benefits the community.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about where to find information being presented and the cost and the subscription plans. We could add a link to that when we post this video to our YouTube channel and our website. But where else can this be found on your end if somebody's looking for this information?
Sam, you want? Yeah.
I just typed it into the chat function.
There you go.
Perfect. This is what you can't do in real life, like in-person dialogue. So this is great. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. I lost my spot on the questions here. Let me make sure I'm not missing any. There's one here. This might be a good one for Caitlin or Samantha on the possible partnership between Gotcha and bike-powered community initiatives. And so maybe there's you know, a tie-in with Active SGV or other organizations that you could talk a little more about.
Yeah, so we are partnered with Active SGV as well. And so they are helping promote the program and helping us with the launch events. Caitlin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is yes, there's very definitely a possibility, and that's something that we're extremely interested in as we continue to roll out. Yeah, we are currently working with Active SGV. They're pretty active in especially the central San Gabriel Valley area. But I think that we really know that the success of a program like this is really based on the kind of the buy-in and the support from already existing community groups and community initiatives. So we're extremely interested. We're excited to be here tonight for that reason and to continue to partner with other groups here in Claremont to really promote the program and figure out how to get more ridership and encourage people to try out the program because that ultimately is how the program will be successful.
Okay, great. Then another one here, if you can maybe address the intended lifespan of the program. So is this, is funding for this, and is the proposal, is this indefinite? Are we talking 3 years? There was a bike program in Claremont a number of years ago that sort of vanished. And so if you could address that, I think that'd be really helpful.
Would you like me to address that, Samantha? Okay, yes. The program that we have is to operate the contract we have with Gotcha is for 3 years. So that is the initial that's kind of the pilot program component of the program. But we're extremely hopeful that it will continue, that it'll be successful enough during that pilot program period, that both the cities that are participating and then also Gotcha as well will be interested in continuing. The purpose of the funding was really for the infrastructure and startup costs associated with it. And so all of the operations is covered by kind of those user fees, et cetera, that Gotcha is collecting. So from that perspective, the funding is overall covered. But I think that we're hoping, like I said, that in that time period of the 3 years of the pilot, that it becomes enough a part of the fabric of these communities that it continues to operate. So that is, I think, another piece that kind of goes back to having the partnerships and the support of the communities that we're serving will really go a long way to helping to expand the lifespan of the program.
Okay, let's see here. Sorry here. I'll have to find myself in the chat box. Just 1 second. Let me ask one of my questions real quick while I find my way back to the questions in the chat function. I have a question. So on all these dialogue topics that we have, one of the most important issues is sustainability and environmental justice. And I think that you touched on that a bit with the program for underserved communities and disadvantaged communities, which is great. And I think the sustainability benefits of this are pretty clear, right? The more people that we have riding bikes and not riding cars is great. I'm wondering though about like the knock-on effects of it. So if we're replacing batteries on these bikes semi-frequently, hopefully like they get used as much as possible, but I think Benson had alluded to if they're below 50% at some point, they get taken to be recharged, and presumably they're gonna have to be replaced semi-frequently. Maybe that's something that can be addressed. Is there a plan to, how these batteries are handled after they're no longer usable on the bikes? Is there attention being paid to the type of energy that's being used to power these batteries? I'm sure that has some local components there, but those are like 2 questions baked into one. What happens to these batteries after you use them? And then how do we know that they're not being charged by coal-fired power plants?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, as far as we're kind of in a transition period too. We just received a bunch of new batteries in a shipment, and they're being distributed to some of the other cities as well. So we have a plan to recycle the old batteries. We're not just throwing them in the trash. We do have a program in place for that and that they're working on. And also, as far as how we charge, right now we're using our on-site, electricity. So as far as being, if it's a coal powered or whatnot, that is really, we're just using what we have at the warehouses right now. So.
Well, I think kind of getting back to that question of electricity, I mean, if you look at what creates the most GHG emissions and just the most impact in Southern California as a whole, it's transportation. And I mean, with a lot of the legislation that's passed in recent years, is while electricity does create an impact, it's much smaller than especially some of these transportation emissions and the transportation impacts. And I know that, I mean, there's a continued drive to move away from coal powered and move towards the renewable portfolio standard and ensure that those are, that the actual electricity that even individual cities are getting and that our utilities are providing to us is actually clean, or at least cleaner energy. And I think that's going to continue. So that's another benefit, even if it's not directly related to what Gotcha's doing, is just with the kind of the movement towards cleaner energy around electricity, it's going to be a huge benefit as well.
Okay, great. That's encouraging. That helps answer a lot of those questions. So I'm back on track with my questions here. We have a couple more that are still coming in. One is one of our viewers pointed to a program at Auburn University that really encourages college students to engage in the bike share program by having specific price points for students. And there in particular, it looks like they might have first couple hours of rentals are free for the students. Is this something that's being looked at in Claremont? Is this something that might be discussed with some of the Claremont colleges as a way to get the student body to participate more?
Yes, definitely. I mean, so yeah, we do have those subscription options for college students. And I'm not sure about any other kind of deals other than that. I mean, Caitlin, do you know if we'll be doing something?
Yeah. And I think that's definitely something that we want to talk to the colleges about. It's something that we're kind of, that we're talking to the city of South Monte about. They actually received some additional funding through one of their AQMD Air Quality Management District funding sources that would theoretically subsidize. We're actually, I think for that one, we're looking at subsidizing some of the Kickstarter Program memberships. So that's something that we're looking at there, and we would love to be able to provide those sort of subsidies as well. And I think especially early on, one of the things that we're focusing on is how to get people to just try out the bikes. So I think this doesn't solve a long-term problem, but in terms of when programs have rolled out, we've been able to, or Gotcha's been able to provide a free unlock code so you can at least try it out, because we think that one of those initial barriers that we think anyway is just kind of the fear factor of a new thing and not really knowing what it's like to try it. So in addition to kind of those longer term partnerships with universities and the cities to be able to provide those subsidies, I'm also providing some subsidies up front so people can be incentivized to try it.
If I may add to that, I know that we do some back to school discount codes, kind of like what Caitlin mentioned, and also really stress the memberships, because that's really where you're going to save money. Not only is it very cost effective, whether being student or military, but if you think about the fact that you have 20 minutes of free ride time each day, that's over a whole year. Now, what they didn't say much about, and what people don't really realize is that 20 minutes of free ride time also includes a free unlock. So even if you just take, say you wanted to try and ride that bike once every day for a whole year, that's $2 every time that you're going to save throughout the year. So if you look at the cost benefit versus the membership that you pay up front, you're already ahead. You're like $600 ahead. Just if you just want to walk around town and unlock bikes all day, you know, one bike every day just for the fun of it and ride it 5 feet. So it's, you know, really try to stress that. We try to tell people about that as much as we can, but that's really where the benefit comes to the end user, these membership programs. So.
Great. I have another question. It's sort of related to one that was asked earlier. In thinking about sort of the first last mile implications of the program, and particularly for residents of Claremont or any of the participating cities in the program, whether or not, so let me just give you an example. Maybe this is easier. If I take one of these gotcha bikes and, you know, put it on the Metrolink and take it with me to a city that doesn't have a bike share program, can I then ride it to my work and then later in the day ride it back to the Metrolink and bring it home with me and then ride back to the docking station? Or like, is this something that's that you see happening, you know, for connectivity for people who, you know, are interested in the bike program, but they're not using it? You know, I think Benson talked a lot about how, you know, a lot of these trips are longer than maybe you anticipated, and people are using them from an average of 30 minutes, and that's all great. But what if people need to use them for longer trips and want to integrate public transportation? Do you see a role for these types of bikes in that type of situation?
I can answer that. So I think the actual vision is for us to have bikes in this program at strategic places so that you can intermix using the bike system as well as public transit. So whereas it's kind of like taking a bus, transferring to somewhere, and then you can hop on a bike. So we do have certain locations that are actually right near metro stations, which, you know, is a great way to do that. But as far as taking a bike, say if you started in South El Monte, if you can put it on a bus if you wish. Again, remember, it's quite a bit to lift onto that rack. But two, as long as you're going to a city within the service area, it's fine, because you're just incurring the time at that point. But the thing is, at this current time, we are kind of limited in where we can go. If our vision comes to full fruition, where you can go from one side of San Gabriel Valley to the other, and it's this gigantic, huge territory, which would be amazing, then yes, you could ride somewhere, pop it on a bus, and not have to worry. But also, if the planning, the site planners do their job correctly, you can rest assured that you can ride a bike to a station, park it at a metro station, hop on a bus, go somewhere, and if we've done our work right, you can find a bike at that next station. That is, I think, the ultimate goal, which, you know, we would be very excited to see happen. Anything else? Or?
No, I second that. I just want to re-emphasize that as well. Like that really is the ultimate goal, to be able to, I mean, the way that first last mile really works most effectively is that you really have that connection between that first and last mile, that you don't have to worry about dragging your bike on a bus or anything like that. You know that when you get to the other end and you have to make that short trip to your home or to your work or wherever, you can just hop on an easy form of transit. And actually, kind of getting back to the first question around why the focus on e-bikes as opposed to bikes, is there was a fair amount of discussion about that early on, and the original intent of the program was actually to just be a typical bike. And I think one of the things that we kind of noticed in looking at kind of ridership around bike share programs is that it really hasn't been that high. And one of the things, like Samantha mentioned the topography, and I think that is one component, But another component of it is that these, like an e-bike share, an e-bike is significantly easier to ride. And if you're looking at like taking it to work, for example, you don't want to get all sweaty, having to work really hard to pedal your bike. And I think there was a question on here about the boost that you get when you actually start pedaling. And it really is, you get a good little kick, and you really don't have to work all that hard at all. Like you have to start pedaling to kind of kick it into the gear, so that, and Benson could actually talk about like what this actually means, but just as a rider, it kicks into that gear where you actually really don't have to do much work. And like, yeah, your feet are on the pedals and they're moving. And if you stop doing that, then the motor is going to stop. And, but ultimately, like it really does move you along, and it's a lot easier than just riding a bike.
You know, we also had a question about that, Caitlin, and this is maybe a good time to ask it about, for somebody who's not ridden an e-bike before, the question is sort of ethereal. Can you describe the feel of the boost mode? Like, what's it feel like to ride these? Is it you're throttling, or is it when you start pedaling, then it pushes you along? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say this as a not very experienced bike rider. Actually, before I didn't ride a bike for about 10 years. And the first time I got it on a bike after that, I actually crashed. I ran into a side and had to get 5 stitches. So that was like one of my more recent experiences with bicycling when I got back on one of these bikes. And I tried it, and like, you really do, like, it's very easy to use. Like you just start pedaling, and it does just kind of kick into, like, it just kicks into that next gear, and you do move, like you do move quite a little bit. And there's no real, there's not really that much you have to do. And then once you stop pedaling and when you slow down, then it will kind of kick off the motor, that portion of it will kick off. But from the experience of a rider, like, yeah, when you start pedaling, like you really feel like you are like being helped along by this bike. I don't know, Benson, you want to add any of the like actual, this is how the bike works components to that?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good description. Having been a cyclist for over 40 years, I will say I feel guilty riding our bikes. It's to the point where you're moving your feet. I give the analogy as, if you recall being a child and you get on a swing, you can kick yourself along and start swinging, but then if somebody pulls up behind you and gives you a push every time you go forward, I liken it to that, except it just keeps building. It's kind of interesting to the point where it feels almost unnatural, to me at least, that once you just have to keep moving your feet. You don't even have to feel any type of resistance on the pedal, and it just starts to build and build. You can probably cruise along at 17, 18 miles an hour without even trying. We've tried our hardest to see how fast we can get these things going on the flats, just because we get bored sometimes at work. And I think so far we've gotten up to like 23 miles an hour, and we're working, but it's not hard to get up to that 20 mile an hour speed. So yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
And I like what you said there, Benson. It really seems like, for a lot of cyclists, like one of the things I hear a lot is that it feels like they're cheating. And I think it sort of reiterates it for a lot of people. And like, maybe this goes to what Caitlin said, where it's not necessarily like a bicycle replacement, it's a car replacement, right? Or it's a different form of active transportation for people who might not be avid cyclists to begin with.
Yes.
Okay, well, I know we're almost out of time here. So I have 2 more questions I'd like to get through. And I think that they can be lumped into one. So I'll try my best here. And then we'll try to get you guys out of here right on time. So these 2 questions are just about the locations of the docks for these. And so the first is for a town the size of Claremont, how many docking stations there are likely to be. And second, it looks like Cal Poly Pomona has a similar program or the same program. And the questioner is asking whether or not there are docks throughout Pomona, or if it's just at the university. So I'll throw that back to you. Not sure who that's best for. Maybe
I was
someone
gonna say, no one else is talking, so I will. And in terms of the citing of it, I mean, and I think I have to defer to Benson on the actual like recommended number of stations for a city of this size. But I think what we've been working really hard to do with the cities is to kind of work with them for what they feel comfortable with. So for South El Monte, which I'm actually not sure how it probably is slightly smaller than Claremont size-wise, there's about 6 stations there. So it's not a huge number. It's kind of starting at a relatively small number, and then depending on what the success rate is, just kind of building from there. And I believe that the number in Baldwin Park, which probably is larger, I would guess, honestly, than Claremont size-wise, or at least similar size. I think we have, is there that many? I couldn't remember exactly how many it was. So there are more than that there. But that really is the purpose of kind of going through the station siting exercise with the cities to identify like where are those appropriate locations. And we've got a couple of cities, and actually Pomona is one of them, that wants to start a little smaller kind of with a pilot approach. So in Pomona, we are just going to start like at least around Cal Poly Pomona specifically, and at least focus on kind of the students there, hopefully with some kind of connections to off-campus users, but starting there and then kind of allowing the city to see how it works, and then expanding from there. So that's kind of the approach that we've tried to take, is to work really closely with the community, with our city staff partners, to build kind of a station program and a program generally that fits the needs of the community, knowing that it can be expanded upon as time goes on.
That's great. I think that addressed both of the questions. That's fantastic. And I think that let me go through my document here just to make sure I got to all the questions. I think we did. Yes, I think we're all set. Okay, well, that wraps up our first virtual dialogue. And Samantha, Benson, Caitlin, that was so informative and so helpful. And I think that we're all, so excited to see this program come to our community. It's the less we need to drive and use fossil fuels, and the more we could use bikes and active forms of transportation, the better. And it seems like the barrier to entry here is really low, and that it should be accessible to everyone in our community. And so we're so appreciative of that and for all your help. And thank you for giving us a presentation tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Normally right now people would be like clapping, but it's virtual.
It's in my mind what's happening. Don't worry. I have wild applause in my mind.
Yeah,
We'll do soft snaps instead.
There you go. All
right.
right.
We're really excited about coming to Claremont. We're excited to see you guys on bikes soon, hopefully. So
great. Sounds good. All right. Thank you all. And
We'll be riding off. Riding off.
Right. Riding off. All righty. Well, take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.